Alright, so wholeness, everyone. I had a lot of things on my mind when it came to discussing certain things when it comes to like the cycle that we're moving into, the cycle that we're in right now. Everything's switched up, everything is switching up. The energy, you can feel the energy. If you can feel the energy, you know what I mean. Everything is changing rapidly. You can see it in the reality right now in the world, and a lot of it kind of reminded me of the Matrix movie. In itself, that was a simulation. They were in a simulation, and there was a specific point where Neo went to speak to the architect, and the architect basically explained the history of the Matrix, the history of the simulation pattern that they created. The architect in itself within that movie was the artificial intelligence which constructed the overall network, the neural net of that civilization, that society, which will be the machine city within the movie. Basically figuring out a way to create energy for themselves using the human BTUs, or the energy that we produce, right? The harmonic energy that, the energy that we produce through our central cycle system, through our electrical system, to basically power themselves. Because in the movie Animatrix, if you watch that, it basically explained how humanity got to that point and how they scorched the sky. So humans scorched the sky, as Morpheus said, and the machines basically use use humans as a battery. So the architect basically explained that in order for them to keep humans within, or to use humans' energy, they had to basically figure out a way to manipulate they basically had to place humans' consciousness in a simulation in order to basically tap into the emotional energy, because that's where the energy actually comes out, right? And so he explained how they basically had, like, I think 5 cycles before, and this was the 6th. So when you even really think about the whole thing with the root races, the 7 root races, and the 6 root race, and when you I'm only now connecting the dots here, right? Because this is off the dome. When you think about the root races of society, or humanity, basically, you think about the different civilizations that we would have had in the past. You have Atlantis, Lemuria, Kemet, or Egypt. We would have gone into like Sumeria, right? Some places like Chaldea. We go into the Roman Empire, the Greek Empire, and now recently what I've been researching on is Tartaria, and the mud flood that occurred. So that reset, that civilization went through a reset, very recently. It's crazy. The more I go into like the checking out like the esoteric archaeology and stuff like that, people been discovering a lot of like giants and a lot of like these like stone mounts and stuff like that actually being linked evidently to massive trees that were cut, right, by some kind of tool, like some kind of laser tool or something, basically cut. And and you see again there's evidence of wood being petrified, and turning into crystal or stone. So yeah, it is quite interesting. It's quite interesting, and it shows how much history how much we don't know about our history, how much lies have been told to us about the reality that we live in, right? So the architect explained that within their matrix simulation, the first one, or within all of them, they had a problem with like a messiah type being, a consciousness that awakens in either one person or many, right, within time, and they became free from the matrix, from the simulation, right? And they had to let them go, and these people who were now free from the simulation would create a civilization outside of the matrix, outside of the machine city, and they would call it Zion. So they basically, or in the first one they called it Zion, the first civilization. So he then explained that they had to reset or wipe the simulation, wipe out Zion basically, and start over. And when they did it again, the second simulation, another being woke up and started freeing others. So it's like a contact freeing kind of thing. So like one being would become aware in the matrix, and they would touch another person, and boom, they would just start waking up, and it would just spread, right? For him, as the architect, he called it like a virus. But, and again, I'm making comparisons to that concept and this reality that we're in right now, right? So he said that it continued to go on like that because their system was so perfect. They always rose and what he considered to be an imperfection or an intuitive program within the system that would awaken because of humanity's, right? I mean, you think about it, man. We're limitless beings, quantum beings. You can't trap quantum beings in a system. It only go on for so long. So he basically explained that eventually he had to create an intuitive program, which would be in the Matrix. In the movie they call her the Oracle, right? In order to create a balance. Which then allowed for the consciousness to ease a bit. I guess that's why in society they have to still allow to some degree, like the arts and all the different types of things. They have to allow for like certain types of like controversial stuff to still, if not, it's gonna build up pressure, right? So wow. So it's like a tap. They try to maintain control of all of it, right? Maintain control of certain movements that would be associated with like awakening and stuff like that, so that they kind of like, they know that they can't prevent it from occurring. So what they do is that they redirect the energy. They open the tap, and but they have like a bucket or like a bowl underneath. So they open the tap, allow some people to become conscious, and they go in a little bowl. So it's another box. And you realize there are many boxes, many levels, different layers to the whole thing. And again, you have to have the question within your mind until there is no question at all, till you know, right? See the butterfly? Till you tap into your gnosis, to the ever knowing, to the divine spark, or as in Transformers they say, they call it the all spark. Right? your Christed awareness, your crystalline consciousness, your diamond spark, your diamond heart, there are many names for it. And so Neo, right, which is also an anagram for one. There's this movie with Jet Li, I think it's The One or something like that. I'm not too sure. I have to watch it over though, but where he went around in different timelines, basically looking for versions of himself and collapsing them, basically. So you become one or whole within yourself. Essentially, again, in quantum physics, they show you the whole thing with the wave function, where electrons go into superposition when they're not observed. So it's like an infinitum of electrons all over, stretched to infinity, but with one awareness, with one singular focus, with your focus on a particular timeline, reality. Like the electron basically comes into one singular point, one, like a 0 point focus with infinite potential, all that infinitum of energy that it used to stretch into the expanse of everything, into one point, one singular point of awareness, of consciousness, of knowing, right? And they've noticed that in quantum physics, that is our belief, our awareness, that allows for the electron to behave in a particular way, in a particular pattern. So if you make the assumption within your consciousness, predetermined, that this is how it's going to behave, it will behave as such. If you know or you believe that the electron can move through objects, it will do that. If you believe that it can't, it won't. And it's the same thing with our reality, right? Our reality is created from all of this. So in it, the construct within the matrix, he said that he had to allow for this intuitive program to be available to the matrix, to allow for beings to have that sense of choice, because the oracle always talks about a choice. And it became, so you remember in the first movie, they were talking about the Smiths, the agents. You got people in our society, and what Morpheus said was that the Smiths, the agents, they're everyone and they're no one. So they're everywhere, right? They can be anyone still plugged into the system, plugged into society. Again, we're making the parallel of this reality, this construct that we're in right now, and the matrix. He said that those who are still plugged in are a potential agent, or a potential enemy, or a threat to those who are unplugged, right? Who have a freer mind. And you see in the Matrix when Neo actually died, and he so this is spoilers for anyone who didn't watch the movie, right? If you haven't, I would say go and watch the movie. But when he died, after he started to believe when he was in the last couple of scenes when he was fighting the Smith. And they always tell you that no one can defeat an agent. He started to believe. Started to believe in himself. Right? He started to trust in himself. And he was actually fighting the agent. It was quite fascinating. He actually defeated him. But then he came back because he was still in their system. And I remember he ran trying to get to the phone to come out of the matrix, and the agent shot him. right? Shot him a couple times, and then in Trinity's disbelief, who loved him, she basically, professed her love to him, and through the power of love, they would show you, he came back to life, but he came back to life as now a crystal, a Christed being, the One, as Morpheus calls it. And you could see, he could see the matrix for what it was. He was able to see the whole construct, everything, and he had a knowing and awareness within himself, to the point where the Smith basically, the agent ran up to him, started cuffing, and he was like ultra instinct, like just blocking. He wasn't even looking at him. They even shot at him, and he said no. He's not receiving those bullets, and the bullets had to stop. They had to obey his command and stop. Again, the same thing with the electrons, right? The CIA, there's a CIA document that came out that talks about this. When we go into hemisync, when we sync our two brains, we become whole brain. We're able to actually, they say that humans are able to display supernatural abilities, right? And yeah, it's really interesting. And so yeah, so it's really interesting, because it in itself, then it brings that parallel reality to the, as a symbol, as an analogy of this simulation here, this reality that we're in, to where you come to the realization that when you look at Samaria, when you look at Egypt, when you look at all of these different civilizations, these different empires, you got the whole Jagannath temple, you got all these ancient buildings that make no sense how they even constructed these things. They had to be using some kind of sonar technology, and I had a dream about that as well, where I saw them actually using some kind of like sonar technology, like waves, to actually basically sound and light, using sound and light, lasers and sound, to shape rocks, to shape stones, to shape mountains into entire temples, buildings. I saw that in a dream, in a vision, right? Detailed even the type of like these kind of they look quite similar to like how we would have excavators, but they didn't have the arms. They just had like these like sonar type devices that would send out these waves, and they would like dig into the rocks and stuff like that. Floating pylons, right? Creating like holographic images. That was in a dream, right? But it came to me as like a knowing, like I knew that in itself partly was how some of these different aspects of their creation was, right? So you see all these different civilizations, you see the clearly something miraculous was occurring in these times, where like their technology had to be so advanced. They made megaliths, right? Stones piled on top each other. Not a you couldn't even get a razor blade through that, right? Stonehenge, they're still trying to figure that out. Egypt or Kemet, they're still trying to figure it out. Right? So and so in certain aspects of civilizations, of these civilizations, they had a golden age. Then I think they would have gone through like maybe a silver age, bronze age, and then a reset every time, right? The recent one that I've been checking up on, Tartaria. They had Antiquitech. So a lot of the like cathedrals and stuff like that you see that have like a lot of these like the pipe organs, a lot of these like big like columns as well going up, and they taper up to a point almost like pyramids as well. This guy Flat Earth British, he talks about it. He talks about there being like a recent mud flood, maybe like 500 years or so ago, very recent, and again, like a lot of people either lost their memories or the history was switched up so much that like no one has an awareness of even that going on. And so again, it kind of reminds me again of the Matrix, like how the architect explained the whole whenever their experiment fails, it goes through a reset. Again, evidence shows that in this reality as well, in this simulation, there have been several resets, and right now we are shifting into another age of like a sine wave. So we coming into a convergence again, where there's also another major reset, to where we move into the expanse of our awareness. Like the potential is endless. It's like when I think about it, like my heart flies, like the possibilities, the potential, like when you see the vision that you see into the future, like you feel it, you know it, that the reality in itself, you feel it, you know it, that the reality in itself is shifting into infinite expanse of awareness. As we regain our memories, we begin to remember ourselves from inside out, right? And this is a choice. There's always that choice that humanity has in which direction we move into collectively. Individually as well, we also have a choice, and as it says, the individual consciousness, or we exist in our own realities, our own perception, our own versions of our reality. And so in it all, like right now is a turning point in where we go from here. Last year we would have experienced it energetically. Physically, we're now moving into that manifestation, right? The points of no return. Yeah, it's gonna be very, very interesting. It is interesting right now. It could be a very confusing time for a lot of people as well. But I would say for me, from what I pick up, like when I think about true freedom, like true abundance, true awareness of ourselves from within ourselves, my heart just like wings just open up, like just pure joy. So I just wanted to share that. Right, so yeah, that was straight off the head, off the top, just and straight from the heart, thinking about the different forms of like different history that our reality has gone through, has moved through, the different, and even making the connection with the root races, connecting it then to the Matrix movie as an analogy of things that are going on. You are the one. You are your version of Neo. You are a Christed being. We just have to remember that. Individually for ourselves and collectively. Right? This is graduation. Right? Graduation is coming. I would say it's here. But this feels like this is our final exam. Like the culmination of everything that we have learned in all of our lives, summed up into one thing right now, this experience. Right? And how we handle it, how we manage it in balance is very important. So I'll just leave it there. Always remember to, as Yeshua said, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven. All these things should be added unto you. He also said that the kingdom of heaven, kingdom of God, is within you. It comes from within. It expands into our simulation, our reality, our knowing, our belief systems, our everything. Right? Wholeness.